from last year from Jadavpur University. And I took basically a gap year in between so that I could prepare better for these exams. My preparation last year wasn't up to the mark, like according to me. So I decided to take a step back, like evaluate where did I go wrong, and like fill up those lacunas, fill up those gaps, and then sit for the exams again. I know it was like a risky decision, and there has been people telling me that what if you don't like succeed, there's always a chance of failure. But I thought if I don't like, ma'am, like in finance and economics, unless you're taking a risk, there is nothing like you won't have little chance of gaining something. So, ma'am, I did take a risk, and now that looking back, I don't know whether it was like a brave decision or not. But at that time, of course, I had my own like doubts and anxieties. But ma'am, like in any exam in India, be the UPSC or the banking exams or like any exams in India, especially, you need to have a risk. You need to like make up your mind, and unless we're taking this risk, you won't have like much chances of success. And there are people who get in through the first year, like most of my batchmates are like got into to the first year itself. But I do know people who are also did take a gap with me, and did get into ISI, they did get IGIDR for the interview, they cracked the interview, they got into IIT. So ma'am, like I would like to say in this regard, just there are like factors that are beyond your control. For example, in particular year, perhaps you have been plagued by ill health, family problems, and there are things that are within your control. So unless there's the only trick is to focus on things that you can control and let go of things that you can't. So if you think that taking a gap year would be good for you, I don't think there is no point listening to people who would be demotivating you, because there will always people who would be like scaring you. So at the end of the day, it's your decision. And if you take a decision, just stick to it. Like, don't be like halfway throughout the preparation period. Don't be like, I should have done that. So because once you have embarked on this journey, there is no turning back. And that like it's like literally for every journey in life. So it's ultimately your decision. And at the end of the day, ma'am, as like we are answerable to only ourselves for our preparations, for our failures, for our successes. So I would just say that do whatever like what you wish to do, and don't force yourself down any path.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And this is true for studying also. Like everybody has a different way of studying. I interviewed someone else. They said they found Nicholson to be a very good book. Somebody found Variant to be a very good book. In my time also, like so many years back when I had given an entrance, I stuck to what I like. And there was a friend of mine who also wanted to copy me. She thought that Mera shayad ho jayega, so she wanted to copy me. But it didn't work for her. She probably should have stuck to what she liked instead of copying someone who you thought is knows better than you or whatever. So I think for studying also, if each of us follow our own path of what we feel right. Some people like solving more questions, some people might like solving some books, some people like reading more theory, some people study at night, some people study in the day. Whatever works for each individual, it's so important to follow your own path in that sense also.
Like starting off my preparation, I was really like I had all the EduSure notes stuff up in my computer, and I really like religiously studied them. I did the variant workbook. I like the variant workbook is really helpful when it comes to ISI. Like they literally take up questions from them and like modify a bit and then put it in the PE as well in the interview. So that's literally like you should aspirant should do doing that religiously the variance workbook. And what necessarily like I would suggest is doing the past year papers. Like the past year's papers are really, really helpful. Like do the two, like one should be doing it like 3 times, 4 times. Like once we are done with the 10-year cycle, just go back. Like if one starts from 2009 and ends in 2023 this year, he or she should immediately go back to 2009 paper and do. And like for the PEB, there's like, I don't feel when you are solving a question, there is not much need to like stick to a time schedule, because essentially you'll be doing like 4 questions in 2 hours, so it's 30 minutes per questions, and the questions are like not that really long that you'll be writing for 30 minutes. So if you devote 15 minutes for thinking, like preparing the answer, and like 15 minutes is enough for jotting down whatever is supposed to jot down for the full marks thing. So like for PA, however, time there's really a time crunch. Like there are 30 questions for 2 hours. You can't like devote more than 4 minutes to each questions. So for the PA thing, however, ma'am, I don't think while preparing you need to like keep this time thing in mind. You can literally like solving the questions properly is what that matters more. Also, ma'am, regarding the PEB, what matters most is the approach. Like there is like if you can't if person can't complete the whole thing, there's no point like thinking that whatever they have done till that point is wrong, or like ultimately, honestly, when it comes to PEB, they're very generous when it comes to marking PEB, despite like whatever people would have an impression of ISI, they're actually very generous when marking PEB. So there is no point like freaking out, because if you like compare, since then they have discontinued the DS exam since this year. ISI paper, if you like, apart from IIT Jam doesn't have like, neither did DSA have a like subjective part. But apart from IIT Jam, ISI has become like a class apart. Its difficulty level is much higher than if you say compare with CUET or even IGIDEA. So as ultimately what matters is your relative performance at the end of the day. So there is no point in when receiving the paper, there is no point in freaking out like this is much harder than what I expected. Like this year's PA paper was much harder than the last year's PA paper. And honestly, I did get scared initially, but I did whatever I could do. And at the end of the day, found out that just giving a best at this point, at that moment, in those 2 hours is what that matters. Like ultimately, it's one of relative performance. There is no point like there was a difference in last year's PA cut-off and this year's PA cut-off by 40 marks. Last year it was like above 100 and this was barely 60. So there's a huge differences in this like year-to-year paper of the ISI. What they really check is that your presence of mind. Like do not, and I'd like to give this is what I feel after my journey, that under no circumstances, do not let lose the control. Keep your nerves under control. That's the ultimate thing that matters.
Right.
Because ISI paper is literally much difficult, like what we do in college or whatever we study for CUET or IGIDR. So if you like, there is like, of course, it's difficult for you, then it's difficult for everyone. It's not like they have prepared a different paper for you. And that's what like it's a really helpful tip I would like to give it to the like.
Yeah, I think that is so true, because since you all would have faced a paper which is difficult, so instead of thinking कि अरे इतना difficult paper है मेरे से तो कुछ नहीं हो रहा है, like you said कि relative है, सबके लिए difficult है, तो let me keep my nerves under control and do the best that I can. So that time this is so important, you know, and एक दो marks, एक दो questions से whether you are in the list or out of the list, it gets decided. So these little tips are really helpful for anybody who's, you know, sitting for this exam. All right, Raunak. So great. And what about your interview? How did your interview go?
Ma'am, again, the thing is necessary to remind yourself in the interview that if you have come like till this point, there are high chances that you will go to the interview also. It's not like the interview was like, ma'am, I remember you telling me before my interviews that like interviews are not like somebody from coming from Mars. They're necessarily people like us, and they're honestly, ma'am, to say they're well behaved, very friendly, like not what typical one would expect of ISI professors. So the necessary thing is to keep your just remain in control. That is what I would say. And honestly, ma'am, be very honest, that interviews are not like a make or break thing. If statistically they are like, it contributes to a 16% of the total marks. So there is no point thinking that if you like flunk in this interview, if you do badly, you'll be like out of the competition. It's not like that. And the thing is that the more stressed one becomes, there are the chances of him like fumbling of things, forgetting what he knows, like increases. So if you like keep your stress under control, that is what ultimately matters. Because at the end of the day, ma'am, I found like literally all of us were very scared, very stressed at that room before the interview. And that is what the professors also told us. Like there's no point in being scared. Like since ma'am, like what to say, like the ISI calls for like 70 people, 90 people for the interviews. The ones they're calling are already almost, honestly, they're achievers. To get into ISI to give an interview is already an achievement for most. If you like want to be very honest, every year thousands of people are sitting for this exam. It's like only less than even 100 are making it till the interview level. So once you're making it to the interview level, do tell yourself that whatever you have achieved till this point, you deserve it. And since you could make it till this point, there are chances that, like, consider that you will go to the interview also. Like the interview isn't something very special. It's literally the continuation of the same process. So if you could master your, like, you have the knowledge to clear up to this point, so you'll be also like sailing through the rest also. That is what you need to tell yourself. Like, keep telling yourself till you like succeed. Go through the interview at least.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great positive attitude, Raunak. I'm sure that helped you, you know, for your preparations for your interview. And so, would you like to recommend some books also to the students? Like students keep wanting to know which books to study from. So if you like to give your recommendation.
Really helpful, ma'am, to repeat again. I can't thank you and so enough. Apart from that, I would really say go for variant or not the workbook, that red book, variant red book actually. That is really helpful, and like it's ISI really relies on it when formulating the questions. And as anybody would know, ISI gives more importance to micro than say, statistics, macro, or mathematics. They won't be asking you in the interview or at all. And regarding like honestly, even if you consider the macro questions, they would pepper it with micro concepts. Like they would combine something of like
labor demand, labor supply, intertemporal choice.
They love intertemporal choice. They would be giving intertemporal choice one question like every year. And apart from that, they really love this industrial organization thing, monopoly, oligopoly, and stuffs like that. This is their like favorite topics. They would combine intertemporal choice with almost anything. So one like to really like internalize the whole thing of intertemporal choice. And apart from that, I would say for macro, I did it from ManQ and Fisher from macro. But at the end of the day, I would like to say that honestly, the types of questions that will be coming in ISI won't be in either in ManQ or in like Donbus and Fisher. So at the end of the day, for macro, I would say stick to last year papers, because also do the macro questions from the DAC paper. They are really good. And like DAC and ISI paper, like if you can do like all the macro questions from DAC and ISI last 10 years paper or from 2009, is almost is honest enough. And for mathematics, honestly, I would say go back to basics, brush up your concepts, because whatever book you're comfortable with, they actually place a huge importance in I would say functions and linear algebra. They love linear algebra as well. They would be asking questions on that like every year, every another. So if you did linear algebra and functions really well, there are high chances that out of the 3 mathematics question, you would get at least 1 common.
Yeah.
And that's literally like a huge thing in for PEP, because out of 4 questions, we're getting 25% common. That would be like a huge blessing at that moment. And apart from that, like calculus, yes, they do ask those tricky integration. Every year in PEP, they will be asking at least 1 tricky integrations. So do brush up on integration, because integration is something that people generally tend to forget after their +2. And the mathematical integration are hardly as complex as those get asked in ISI questions. So I will especially suggest everyone to brush up their integration. And apart from that, like the math and probability and statistics, honestly, in probability, there is only one thing to do: practice. Like, if you get a question, do it. Apart from that, there is no other way to master probability, because every question probability is different. There is no way someone can like tell you a particular question will be done in this way. They pick a thing and the whole question changes.
Raunak, did you spend also a lot of time analyzing the paper? Like, you have these statistics very well thought of that, if I do intertemporal choice well, there's a chance that paper, there's a question on that. If I do functions and your analysis, there's a chance. So did you kind of try to strategize your topics also that, okay, there are so many, let's say 40 topics to do, but so first I must master, let's say these 8-10 topics, and then I'll do the rest.
I concentrated first on probability and linear algebra, because honestly, those things are a bit honestly neglected during my honors. So I concentrated on them really well, because probability is something that keeps on coming. Be it ISI, be it CVT, be it IGI, they will be coming in every question, every exam. So probability is something that economics students should master really well, and especially that whole Bayesian problem, Bayesian choices and Bayesian thing. And apart from the normal probability stuffs, and then I would like go for the probability distribution, because probability and probability distributions are like the only 2 major topics from statistics that will be coming for ISI. So apart from when you're done with them, go to functions and then to linear algebra and then to calculus, and complete with an optimization. These are the basic things you should be doing. Apart from that, if you can cover the whole, you would be needing to cover the syllabus for other exams. Like IIT JAM has a much more wide syllabus than ISI. So anybody who will be sitting for IIT JAM will have to do like literally all of his thing. And for like these 3 months between the ISI exam and IIT exam, one can like brush up probability, linear algebra, and calculus. That is functions, optimization, and integration.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So great, Raunak. Thank you so much for all the tips that you shared. I'm sure students will really learn from this, and all the very best to you. I'm sure you have a bright, career ahead of you. So, I hope you really enjoy this time at ISI. Sir really has fond memories from his ISI time. So, I'm sure you will too.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Raunak.